Man, it's been a long go without Chris. Drinking alone, man, it just really makes me think, do I got a problem? Chris, cheers to you, brother, man. Wish you were here for my dead homies. Oh, it's good to be back. Cheers, brother.
Hey.
Twin Talk, let's go.
He's back, baby. We are back.
We're so back.
So back.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Twin Talk, a video discussion show where twin brothers Chris and Kevin drink and draw. We'll talk about comic books, movies, and all things pop culture. We are your hosts, Chris Hart,
Kevin Hart.
and today we're talking about Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire.
Stick around to the end of the episode to see how our kaiju drawing came out. And if you like what you see, subscribe to the channel for more content.
We just got back from seeing Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire, also directed by Adam Wingard. He comes back. This is the sequel to Godzilla vs. Kong, and the fifth installment in the legendary Monsterverse.
This one really expands upon the whole lore that they're trying to go with this legendary Monsterverse, and I really appreciate it. I really like the score by Junkie XL. From the get, the music really had me captivated.
Halfway through the movie, we turned to each other and we said it kind of feels like a comic book, like a Saturday morning cartoon. This isn't high art. This isn't Shakespeare. You know, it's kind of crazy to see how it's evolved, this whole franchise, because that 2014 Gareth Edwards Godzilla was pretty like somber, almost like eerie, which I loved.
Very heavy tone.
And ever since then, like Kong Skull Island was cool. It was like that, like Vietnam era sci-fi
macho feel.
I like that as well. And now it's pretty much become like WrestleMania.
Yeah, exactly.
But I kind of love it, because what a time it is to be a Godzilla fan. The Big G is taken this year over. We loved Godzilla -1. We saw it twice in theaters, one in color, one in black and white. Then you got this movie, and it's like the best of both worlds. You get that serious, scary Godzilla in things like Toho's Shin Godzilla and Godzilla -1. And then you have Legendary's American Monsterverse, where he's just like, you know, always evolving and becoming like this crazy god.
Yeah,
you know, he's
super
purple
over
in
the
this
top.
one.
Yeah, dynamic. Just how could we stretch this story to make more toys? And my God, they're achieving it.
Yeah, look at the size of this toy I picked up today.
Yeah.
But it really is like almost like tag team wrestling, these big heavyweights. And I kind of love that about this. And like I can't wait to see what the next installment's going to bring. They still have room to grow with this. I really enjoyed this movie. Probably not as much as I liked Godzilla vs. Kong.
Yeah.
You know, I've really come to love that movie. Yeah. This was a fun time at the theaters, though, and I really enjoyed a lot of things about it. So let's talk about it. Let's get into what we like, what we didn't like.
The positives, the CGI, stunning. These visuals
Flawless.
are impeccable. Absolutely flawless. Like the little hairs, everything, the emotions that I'm feeling from these characters that speak no dialogue, and I'm like emotionally driven. And
you're invested in these characters.
Into these characters.
These creatures, these kaiju, they have these personalities of their own. That little son of Kong.
Ginger Kong Jr.
Yeah, like
old green eyes.
Yeah, who was a little bastard for 2/3 of the film, and finally redeems himself. But you know, even your wife was talking about how halfway through we were emoting with this character too, just because, based on his eyes and you know, however they rendered this thing, it almost like feels real. You believe, you buy into what you're seeing on the screen, and I love it.
And I love how these characters have their own like personality to them, kind of. You know, you could tell like, all right, Kong, he's got a little gray in the beard. He's aged. We're all getting older. Yeah. Death comes for us all, man, and even the king. But yeah, it's really cool to see like his character arc, how he's going from like the king of Skull Island. He's lost his family. He's kind of like a loner now, and he's kind of like, he has a character need. You could tell he's kind of lonely, maybe looking for a family. But it's cool to see how he's been a king on Skull Island, humbled, taken out of his home, and now he's kind of got this movie, which is very Kong central. Yes. But this one, they really expanded on like the Skull Island type Hollow Earth thing, which is really driving this whole like, you know, story of this Monsterverse to new territory, which I really, really enjoyed.
It's just cool to see how all of this is starting to fit together in this nice, this nice package. Yeah. And I like it for what it is. I really enjoy it. You were talking about Kong being the center of the movie. He was also the center of Godzilla vs. Kong too.
Yeah.
I feel like Legendary is almost doing kind of like what Sony and Marvel are doing.
Yeah.
No, where like, you know, Kong is the driver of the story, right? He's America's monster. He's our guy. You know, Empire State Building, 1930s.
Classic.
Yeah. And then like we kind of just, Toho's renting out Godzilla to us. He's
Yes.
releasing Godzilla for this, almost kind of how like Sony and Marvel are doing their deal with Spider-Man, you know? So I kind of like that it's Kong-centered, because Godzilla's just like the icing on the cake. And when he comes in the movie, it's great. Kong is great. He's a badass in this. I really like the journeys that they're taking with these kaiju. It's cool to see them evolve.
The continuity and the canon is pretty airtight. It's like building off each movie. There's nothing that happens off screen too much that it's like, oh, I wanted to see that movie. It's like, all right, we're still picking up where we left off and just adding more and really like outsourcing this thing into something that is really becoming a very successful shared universe, if you will.
Yeah, definitely.
A couple of the actors might change here and there, you know, maybe contractually, just their schedules and stuff. Maybe we're tired of seeing the same characters over and over, but for the most part, I think the humans do a decent job here, too. I really enjoyed the addition of this new guy who was like a kaiju veterinarian with like all the 80s flair, dresses like Ace Ventura, and definitely. I really liked him as a character. And TTP, I love that guy. He's so funny from Godzilla vs. Kong.
The Titan Truth podcast.
Just a fellow brethren, you know, trying to fight the algorithm, trying to get the subscribers.
Yeah, Bernie, he's become one of my favorite characters in this, even though he's so zany and over the top. But the humans aren't why we see these movies, right?
Exactly.
So the basic plot lines and structures of these movies, the skeletons are there. You could kind of like ad-lib the human aspect of it all.
Yeah.
But for what they're doing with
give
it,
or take. Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, it's nothing crazy. We're not breaking any new barriers with these stories.
Although I did like how they with the deaf girl. It's kind of like the symmetry of like what Kong was trying to do. He was trying to find his family, his purpose, his role in all this too. And now he's kind of sharing that with this bond that he had with the girl with the sign language too.
Jaya.
And now she's like part of the Iwi that was on Skull Island. I liked how they weaved this whole like prehistoric prophecy into like the human aspect too.
It's all coming together pretty nicely.
Coming together. And Mothra, we forgot to talk about Mothra. She's back. You know, that was really, really cool.
I really like that they held that out, you know, in the marketing and stuff. It's always nice seeing, you know, familiar kaiju come back. Mothra's a huge player in the game, and there's that one scene where they're all like roaring, Godzilla and Kong, and then Mothra's in the middle, and like a couple people clapped in our theater, and that was really cool. That's a moment that should be clapped for.
Yes.
Those are, you know, super famous characters.
That's what makes me curious. Is this the end of all of this? Is there any plans for another one? There was no like real cliffhanger or
post credits
end credits scene that said, oh, we're doing more. But I would assume keep your foot on the pedal on this thing with the success of Godzilla -1, Black and White, the legendary MonsterVerse Apple TV streaming series. I think, you know, milk this thing for what you can out of it. Don't overdo it, but
you don't want to overstay the welcome.
Hot, you know, because it's turning out to be a pretty successful entity of its own. If it was the ending, I would appreciate it because that's kind of how King of the Monsters ended, right? With Godzilla roaring, Godzilla vs. Kong, they kind of partnered up too, and Mothra, and so to have that like bookended moment of the big three, really, which would be like the trinity of the MonsterVerse, Godzilla, Kong, and Mothra as the heroes, I think would be a really cool send-off if this was the conclusion of this thing. But I feel like there's gonna be more.
There's gotta be more for sure. Yeah. Throughout the movie too, you said it feels like a comic book cartoon. It reminds me of like
the Marvel, like
play sets. Yeah, like first of all, even like the introduction of the Scar King
in there. Yes.
Yeah, like I like that the fact that they came up with. I believe this is an original villain, antagonist for these characters, which is cool because it reminds me of the 70s Marvel's Godzilla comics, where it's like you kind of have to come up with a villain of the week for these monsters to fight. And I really liked Scar King. What was your takeaway on him?
I liked him. I thought it was like kind of like the Joker to King Kong.
Yeah.
Where Godzilla has King Ghidorah. He already had his huge battle with him. Now it's time to give Kong someone more on his level, and like with something that means something to him too. Because they wrote a really good story, I feel, for King Kong to get that kingship back. He was a little weak. He was getting a little old, a little soft. Yeah, he needed to get a challenge back, and I thought that he definitely won back the crown. And that's what I like too. Just real quick, going back to the toys and how bonkers this thing can get. I love that. I love the vehicles that camouflage all the different creature designs, the beast glove, the acronyms, the mess, you know, MHES stands for Monarch Hollow Earth Station, and just all these different like comic booky, zeitgeisty,
super
sci-fi things, elements that I really, really like. It's got a lot of good flair.
But yeah, as far as like a new villain, a new threat, I liked the Scar King. You know, he was super arrogant. He comes out, you know, swinging in the air. He's looking like one of the guys my ex-wife ran around with. But
There it is.
So I was like, we need to take this guy out. He's a false prophet, false king. You know.
I like that like spine necklace whip thing that he had.
Like it's
pretty
cool.
nasty with that.
And it had like I assume like a dorsal fin of Shimu, which is a new character. Like I don't know much about this character, but if it is an original or not, but I really dug the design of it. It was kind of like a Godzilla thing. I love the fact that he like rides on it horseback almost.
Yeah.
That's a cool addition. Like that's just a cool visual.
Yeah.
And I love that Kong ends up having that at the end because now we can go places with that. And, marketing, you can go to place that sell Kong with the attachment, him riding Shimu and stuff. Like, it's just cool visuals, cool stuff to see. Let's get into the negatives. What did you not love about this movie?
I'd have to say that, like, towards the end of the second act, I was kind of, like, checking out a little bit mentally. I was like,
I agree
right.
a little bit, yeah.
Maybe because there was no dialogue and they were all speaking telepathically. Like, I was kind of felt dragging a bit, but I also kind of appreciated that silence, too, because I was able to see the story, kind of creatively done as opposed to all the exposition that we were getting earlier.
All this word vomit coming our way.
Yeah, so it was like, all right, like now there's like a new story happening that I'm seeing instead of being told it so heavily, which, just a little gripe. There's always going to be exposition.
It's inevitable with
they're
this
monsters,
type of movie,
so we have to kind of like speak for them a little bit in ways, but I just felt like the pacing was a little bit off, that the final act of the movie kind of suffers because of it, because it feels like we're playing catch up and it's like rushing towards the finish line.
Yeah, I could feel that
where like
sure.
that last fight actually could have been a little bit more epic. There wasn't so much action or like slow spots throughout the other parts of the movie, but I loved the action like spread throughout. I thought this was very
action's definitely the selling point on this thing. My one gripe too is that not a gripe, but you said like very Kong focused.
Zilla's sideline.
He's very sidelined. Yeah, like he's not really in the movie, but when he's in it, he makes his presence very well known. He looks awesome in this movie. I feel like eventually we're going to come back to the Godzilla. The last two movies have been very Kong heavy.
Yes.
I think eventually, like when we get maybe like a Destroy All Monsters, we'll put the shift the focus back to Godzilla as the main.
That's what I'm saying. Like I feel like this is almost like a trilogy of like Skull Island, Godzilla vs Kong, and now Godzilla X Kong New Empire, GXK any. But it's
they all play into each other, which is cool. I like it.
That,
I like
that
what they're
could be
coming
its
up
own
with.
little trilogy on its own. But the fact that we now have this like Godzilla kind of got his own Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Yeah, definitely.
And
they showcased him a lot in Monarch. On the
maybe
show, which I was very happy about.
Maybe Destroy All Monsters will be like the wrap up, like they both get their 3 movies, and then like we're done with this thing, because how long can you drag it out? Unless we do like really like the originals where it's like, oh, Godzilla vs. Gigan, Godzilla vs. blah blah blah, this that like where you said it's almost like a flavor of the week. I mean, I would love that. I would love to see like the modern interpretation of that, because it's just so visually appealing, but that would get stale quickly. That I would kind of like this thing to be sent off in a nice bow. Yeah. Where I love it, but I don't want to like.
It's like eating a giant banana split. It's delicious. It's awesome. But then you get brain freeze. Yeah, and then you're on the toilet for 24 hours. Yeah, it's like too much of something that is great. This guy's had too much of something. What's your favorite scene, Kevin?
There was so many action scenes to choose from. Like the quick little snippets of Godzilla just absolutely kicking ass. Like whenever he was awake. He's like, all right, I gotta
supercharged.
He's like, I gotta get up. I gotta have the dad talk. he's like, I gotta go let him know what's up. That scene where he's fighting that spider in Rome or whatever, and the thing's like wrapping around him, and he's like charging up. That noise every time gets me.
Yeah.
It really gets me. And then he's still just killing this thing, even though it's like wrapped around his mouth. It was, I don't know, it was just so cool. It was very quick, but it was like a very like high octane intro of Godzilla. Yeah. Every time he was on, he was just absolutely just killing it.
Being an alpha. Yeah, it's
I love that he was like supercharging too, that we get this new purple design to Godzilla too.
He looks cool.
It's cool.
Looks great.
Yeah, it's really
that
cool.
Scene that's in the trails of him bursting out of like the glacier and stuff, and like just roaring, and like his eyes are glowing. He looks really cool. And it's a nice addition to like future merchandising for sure. I think my favorite scene is going to be when they come up, which I was glad they came back to Earth, because I thought they were going to finish the movie in this battle in Hollow Earth.
Yes.
And I was like, all right, like that'd be cool, but kind of lame too. I want to see real world repercussions for this. Yeah. But then they did come to the real world, and like those people were at Rio de Janeiro. Yeah. They were just having a nice ass day at the beach.
A moment of silence, please, for the people of Rio de Janeiro. And we're back.
Everybody is dead.
Everybody's dead. When Scar King like does his nasty Indiana Jones thing with his
butterfly knife thing.
He takes gang. He takes out half the building and he hurls it towards King Kong. These people had zero chance of survival. Everybody is dead in that building. Yep. Not only that, they didn't get any warning because they just like
no sirens or anything.
Yeah, they teleported
just come out of
immediately to Hollow Earth, so they had no chance of evacuation. The casualties have to be insane here.
You thought Man of Steel was bad?
Yeah.
This is like
Child's
13 Man of Steels.
Yeah. But as far as scores go, what are you going with this thing?
I think we were talking about it a little bit before. I think we're going to go, both of us, right, agree, 7.5, I believe.
I feel comfortable there.
Yeah. While Godzilla vs. Kong, I feel, is a superior product to this. I still enjoyed the hell out of this. Had a great time at the theater. I'll be seeing it again, collecting all the toys, you know, and I like all the additions. I like where we're going. Like you said, the Beast glove, Godzilla's purple. I'm excited for the next one. You know, all these cool, wacky things. Keep bringing them on. And I look forward to the next installment for this.
What did you guys think about Godzilla x Kong New Empire? Let us know in the comments below. Anyways, that about wraps up today's episode of Twin Talk. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, comment below to join the discussion, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content. We'll see you next time. Peace!